I'm gonna drop it in the chat.
Yep.
Oh yeah, hell yeah. All right. I think that's it. Okay. Or are we ready now?
Go right now.
Cool. Okay. Thanks.
All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Tales from the Inside. And would you please welcome our special guest host for tonight, Kendra Dawsey.
Hello, everyone. Hi, thanks so much for being here today. My name is Kendra. I am guest hosting Tales from the Inside for Angela Sawyer, who's the person who has started the show. So this is a storytelling show. People are going to be telling all sorts of stories. Comedians from all over the U.S. are going to be telling stories. And this week,
Your audio is off.
Yeah, I don't know what happened, but we couldn't hear you all of a
Yeah.
sudden. Oh no.
No.
Yeah, I don't know.
Might have to unplug your headphones.
Do you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
you see me.
For a second, I thought you were doing a bit. I was like, "What's happening?"
No, that was unintentional. All right. Well, technical snafus. Sorry that you did not hear part of what I was saying, but but we're gonna continue now. So as I was saying, we have comedians from all over the U.S. telling stories, stories of any topic. We're not gonna have a topic this week because there's enough going on. Let's sit back, listen to some funny stories, and then we'll worry about everything else later, right? Like we're gonna have a good time. So I wanted to start off with a story. Recently, I've been trying to go on boats because there's very few activities which you could do without spreading the plague to another person. So I've been doing some like kayaking, canoeing, also because I want to be a huge like lesbian stereotype, right? Like it's very important for me to do that. And so I've been doing a few like boating things, and I live in Massachusetts, and there's a lot of white people who indulge in boating things. So I feel kind of maybe presumptuously like expecting someone to call me out for being on a boat, just for being like a black individual on a boat, right? Like, oh, you don't belong on the water. I don't know what they would say. But I was thinking about it, and this relates back to a time where I was in Minneapolis with a few of my friends from college, and we were racially profiled. I think we were racially and age profiled for being on a boat. So I have this. I keep thinking about it, and like I think it's like coming into my like everyday life now that I'm here. But yeah, so I have a friend. I have a few friends from college. I have one friend. His name is Brian, and he got like a membership to the sailing club of Minneapolis, which is pretty cool, right? Like he's like the type of person that will learn something and be really good at it. So they'll learn like, I don't know, like wood cutting or like wood chopping. I don't know if they've learned that, but they have a lot of like specific but really handy skills. So we were hanging out. This was 3 summers ago, and Brian was like, "Hey, I have this membership to the sailing club. I have access to a boat. You want to hang out on a boat?" To me and all my friends, and we were like, "Yeah, sure." So we're like a bunch of like 20 somethings on this boat. Um, it was also interesting because like most of our group, unlike Minneapolis, are like probably about the same as Minneapolis. Like most of my friends on the boat were white. Brian is half Asian, and then I was a black person. But like we were just like kind of chilling on this boat, right? Like it wasn't a wildly diverse boat. This boat could have used maybe like a diversity hire, but it was still had more people of color than the average boat. So we were just like hanging out on the boat. A lot of my friends from college are also queer, and it was a nice day. So we were like, let's just like take off our shirts. Like there's no one for miles. Let's just hang out on this boat, right? So like we all had our titties out. Brian was like handling the sailboat. Then all of a sudden, this boat comes closer to us, and we are realizing that they're coming close to us to like approach us and ask us for something. So then we all very quickly put back on our shirts. And they just approach us and they're like, "What are your names?" And my friend Brian, as the like head sailor guy, I guess, was like, "Hey, yeah, my name is Brian." Like, and they were like, "How did you get this boat?" And Brian was like, "I'm part of the sailing club. I'm allowed to be on this boat." And I remember during all of this, I asked these two like random white men, like, "What are your names?" And they just ignored me. But basically, Brian explained that he was part of the sailing club and he was allowed to be on this boat. And after some time, they were like, "Oh, okay, we were just wondering because there's been a lot of people like stealing the boats and then like driving them in the middle of the lake or whatever." And I'm like, first of all, I feel like the people who are under economic conditions where they might want to steal a boat don't know how to drive a boat. Like I don't know how to like have a sailboat, you know? Like if I stole a sailboat, I would just be sitting on it at the dock. I wouldn't be doing anything with the boat. It would not be helpful. But they were like, "Yeah, we just want to make sure, you know." And we were also like, we were probably a third of the age of these random white men who were like jovially sailing and so used to like not. So like I know that was also a factor. It's like young people don't sail, you know, but we do. So yeah, they left. And yeah, that was that was the time I was racially profiled on a boat. I've been racially profiled many places though, but I think on the boat was the most striking. And now whenever I'm on a canoe, I'm afraid some random white men will come up to me and be like, "Where'd you get the canoe?" And I'll have to answer Boston's Parks and Rec. But yeah, thank you everyone. We have some really awesome comedians for the rest of the evening. They all are going to tell some great stories. Coming up first, we have Pallavi Gunalan.
Hi, hey, I was muted. Hey, hi. Am I on the big screen now? Incredible. I normally am used to the silence, but I'm gonna have to have my comedian friends over here guide me through it. Thank you so much for having me, Internet. I'm excited to be here. Kendra, major part of your story was the tits. Did not hear follow up on that. Very disappointed. Want to know? Probably, I mean, your tits were out. If I was a white man on a boat, I'd come over too. You know what I mean? Just to say hi, just to say hello. Maybe, I don't know. Okay. I was in my own apartment building, and this white woman, I was coming down on the elevator, and she was coming up, and she was like, "Do you live here?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I didn't want to make assumptions because, you know, there's been like crime around my apartment because gentrification of homeless areas. Hello, I participate. And she's like, "Do you live here?" And I was like, "Yeah." She was like, "For how long?" And I was like, "Almost 4 years. Do you live here?" And she was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "For how long?" And she was like, "Since March." And I was like, "Bitch, stop colonizing the apartment." Are you the one? Are you the one burning the incense? Because it's giving me flashbacks, lady. Okay. None of these white bitches understand that I just see my auntie's house whenever they burn incense. It just takes me back. Let's see. I don't really have a particular story. I just have my quarantine experience that I want to talk to you guys about. One aspect, I mean, there's been so many. Who can pick a favorite part of the quarantine, right? Who even knows what time is anymore? You know, there was the scary part for white people where they thought everybody was looting, right? Do you remember the Target video where the Target was getting looted? That was fun. Because don't you guys hate when you go into a Target to loot a few specific things and then you just spend an hour just looting stuff you don't need, right? Don't you guys hate that? Oh, it's terrible. You know, the dollar aisles always get me. Not because I'm gonna pay that much, but because, you know, it's just easy to shove down your pants. You know, so it's good. I don't know. There was a lady at the front of the Target this elderly woman in a wheelchair, and she was stabbing all the black people coming out of Target, just letting the white people go through. And everybody was like, "Oh, they like mace this poor disabled elderly woman. Why would they do that?" And then they found out later that she's not disabled and she's not elderly. She's just a problematic white woman who aged poorly. That's what happened. I don't know. My parents, they were a little bit worried about the looting, but with Asian parents, you just need to tell them it's a different form of bargaining and they're on board, They're down with it. Everybody's talking about all of these quarantine issues. For me, I don't know. Like nobody's talking about the real issue, and everybody's like, people are dying of corona, and it's like, yeah. But also, no one's talking about the fact that we're going to have a whole fucking generation of homeschooled kids being weird at parties 20 years from now. Nobody gives a fuck about that. Nobody's saying anything about that. I don't want to be at a party and be like, look up from your Zoom and talk to me, okay? I tutor children. I know what they're going through, and I'm just not getting paid enough to cyberbully them like they should be bullied in school. As a teacher, I have to use my own materials. I have to find a Twitter account, make it, haze them. Parents don't pay you for that. They don't pay you for the emails and the bullying. Oh man, do you guys remember the Tiger? I'm talking only to the comedians because it's just my face. Do you guys remember the Tiger King part of quarantine back in the simple days when we were just abusing animals? That was fun. That was a fun part of quarantine. Carol Baskin, American hero, not just because she murdered her husband, but also because she has a Netflix credit. And as a comedian, I look up to that, Like, I murdered a man to get on the lineup tonight. I'd do it for a Netflix credit. I do it. I am bi. I do like how we asked for LGBTQ representation, and they gave us Tiger King and the Aaron Hernandez documentary. They're like, here you go. This is for your people. You can be murderers. I like how in the Aaron Hernandez documentary, the whole time they were like, he had this murderous rage because he was gay. And I was like, but didn't you mention that he had the worst case of CTE ever seen in a person his age? And they were like, yeah, but also he's gay and he was suppressing it. And that's why he had a murderous rage. And I was like, but his brain, it was broken. You said that. You said his brain was broken. And they were like, yeah, we said he was gay. His brain's broken. And I'm like, what? Where is that? Why is that part of this narrative? I don't know. I am bi, but I've never been in a real relationship with a woman. And that's just because I don't like nice guys. And women are the nicest guys, They're so nice. Right? What's that phrase? What's that saying? Nice guys finish after you do. And that's just not my style, That's not me. That's not who I am. I found out I was gay bi over a series of years of waking up at 3 a.m. wondering why I only remembered one scene from Black Swan. I also want to emphasize that I am a ballet dancer, so I should have remembered at least the narrative of the ballet. Don't remember what those birds were talking about. I don't know. It's a rough time right now. I'm trying to be a good ally for Black people. I'm trying to be a good comrade, right? And so I'm like, you know what I'll do? I'll start doing activist things. I'll start putting myself in front of Black people so I don't have to talk to Asian people and white people about these issues. I will be an emotional buffer, right? The thing is, that's forcing me to talk to way more white people, and I don't want to do that. I don't like white people. Have you seen them lately? They're on the wrong side. I don't know. I don't want to martyr myself for this cause. I told my friend who she means well. I told her she casually called me a guru in conversation, and I was like, don't do that to an Indian person. And so then she freaked out, got defensive, was white, and immediately started emailing the managers of every company that ever used the word guru in promotional emails in her inbox. That's what she did. She was just talking to the manager of Bed Bath & Beyond, just scaring the shit out of him, carrying her way through this social interaction again. I just feel like white people are extra with everything but flavoring, I'm like, just pull it back, maybe even it out a little bit. Let's see. I've been talking to my parents. Actually, talking to my parents has been a lot of fun about politics because, unlike a lot of my friends, they're not Trump supporters. They have their politics are in the right place. It's been fun to talk to them. I called my mom after the horrible killing of Rayshard Brooks. And she answered the phone and was like, "I'm glad they burned that Wendy's down. They should do it again." And I was like, "Hell yeah, Mom!" It just hits different in an accent, It just feels better. And then she was like, "I was telling your father that we don't need police, but he said, what if we get robbed?" So now I think it's pretty tight that instead of my parents getting divorced for the shit I told them they should have in high school, they might get divorced over the prison industrial complex. So that's fun. I think that's incredible. We're all lonely. Are we all lonely in quarantine, or is that just me? I know once we get the fuck out of quarantine, everybody's gonna be fucking, except for me. I'm still gonna not be fucking. I know that's gonna happen. I can see it coming. There's nothing I can do to stop it. I don't know. I feel like everybody was like freaked out about their lives changing in quarantine, and they're all pushing up against it. But I've been getting the same amount of hugs on average that I was before, so no big deal for me. I did recently take my phone out of its case just to feel close to something, to feel that rush. I was like, whoo, feels good. Okay, now I'm bombing with the comics. Okay. I'm losing it. Okay. A lot of my roommates moved out. A lot of people in my building moved out. It's like really fucked. They're all in like the creative industry, so they're all like leaving LA, and it's pretty fucked up that they have to, that instead of like the government providing for them, they're like moving. It's just, I don't know. It's just shitty that they have to move out instead of learning math. If they had only learned math, maybe they would have had some stuff. But nobody ever likes that joke in comedy shows. Okay. Let's see. Ooh, okay. I have 1 minute left. I'm gonna say this. I want to be famous, but I want to be like ugly famous. Like I don't want to be pretty famous. I don't want to be a pretty famous. You can't relate to pretty famous people. We don't like them. We don't like famous people who are pretty, right? I want to be ugly famous. Think of your top favorite ugly famous person. Steve Buscemi. We all love him, right? He's points for the ugly team. He's a good guy, right? We love him. So I want to be ugly famous, but you're like, as just a woman, you're not allowed to joke about being ugly. Like none of my bitches will let me be ugly. None of my friends will let me be ugly. I'll joke about it and they'll be like, "You're fucking beautiful, you dumb shit. What the fuck is wrong with your brain, you dumb cunt? Are you an idiot? Can you not see yourself, you dumb bitch?" And then I'm like, "I feel better. I don't know. I think I'm good now. Thanks, guys." I don't know. It's crazy. It's so weird. As a woman, you're not allowed to feel anything about your body, right? Men won't let you feel good about your body, and women won't let you feel bad about your body. If you'll describe things about your body that are actually happening in reality, if you're like, I have like acne today, I'm really breaking out, women turn into men. They'll be like, "Well, I'm sorry you feel that way, but I just don't see it." And I'm like, "You're gaslighting me, bitch. What are you talking about? You're giving me dysmorphia." I don't understand it. I will say, though, I found recently, in the same way that men body shame women, ladies, we can body shame men. We can do it. I've done it on accident. I recently had a friend bring up a time months ago when I jokingly called him a beta. He brought it up and he was like, "Yeah, remember that time that you called me a beta?" And I was like, "Whoa, what a gamma move. Incredible. Incredible." All right, guys, that's my time. Thank you so much.
Awesome. All right, let's keep it going for Pallavi. From your screens, I can't hear it if you keep it going, but you should. No, yeah, Pallavi, what you were saying about like all the companies, like all the white people going hard for everything except slavery is so right. It's weird because like people were making such specific demands, like, "Hey, we want the police to be defunded. We want less money to go to the police. We want police officers to be held accountable." And like all of the media and whatever was watching it. And then what white America gave back was like, the person who does the voice for Cleveland's going to be black now. It was so separate from what people were asking for. I forgot Family Guy was on the fucking air. Like, it's like, who asked for this? Oh my God, a Seth MacFarlane fan is gonna find me and yell at me. Anyway, so I'm really excited to bring up our next comedian. Very excited. She performs all over Boston when there is not a pandemic, but now we are all performing from our homes. Please keep it going for Kathleen DeMarle.
Oh, hi everybody. It's weird because I know I'm talking to more than just these 5 comedians, but it feels different than that. So I'm going to tell a story, and then I'm going to tell you what the theme of the story is at the end of the story. I grew up in a small suburb of Boston. I am not going to say the name, but it's pretty easy to find. I grew up in a town that was like very cliquey, very like jock heavy, very like kind of sports team driven. And, you know, most of the kids in my high school theoretically like had the way paved for them. So during my years in high school, there was this running joke that our town was called Drinking in Drugsbury. That was the nickname of the high school I went to. There were other schools that had similar nicknames, but that was our nickname. So there was always this kind of like hush hush thing around town that parents would allow their kids to have these like parties with booze and then like just, you know, like let the kids crash and like not give a shit. That was like I never attended any of those parties. I'm going to be fair. I was too much of a loser to get invited to those. But that was the theory. That was the word on the street. There were these parties going on. And to an extent, I knew that those were happening because I happened to live near a marshland where empty beer bottles used to get dumped, and I would collect them and redeem them for nickels. Anyway, so that's a little bit about our town. Now I have to say that I'm a younger sibling. I have an older brother. My older brother at the time of this story was a senior in high school. I was a sophomore, and my brother had this best friend of his, who his name was Bryce. And Bryce and I had a pact to make my brother feel uncomfortable about his life. And so we had a fake Facebook relationship. Like we were official on Facebook, but like we weren't actually together. Like he had a real girlfriend, but like he just was Facebook official with me to piss off my brother collectively. He also had a mullet. That's not important to the story. That just describes the type of man that I'm now interested in. So my parents agreed to let my brother host a party, but like under the preconceived notion that it was like, there's no drugs or drinking allowed in this house. Like it's not allowed. It's not going to happen. And he was like, yeah, everything's fine, blah, blah, blah. And so slowly as the night progressed, like, you know, a couple people came in and then some more people came in and then some more people came in, and like people are coming in and we're like, holy shit, like my brother is popular. Like he's got some good shit going on in his life. And then me and my mom, this tells you also about how big of a nerd I was, besides the fact that I, you know, collected bottles. We were playing double solitaire together, just like, ooh, like wild night at home, directly above the staircase to go to the basement where my brother was having this party. And I started hearing comments about like, oh my God, I can't believe your parents are letting you have this party. And like, other people were like saying stuff like, yeah, I can't believe you got so-and-so here. And like, all that, like all these sorts of comments. And on top of it, my brother kept coming up to the only bathroom like every 10 minutes. And he was like, I'm just drinking a lot of water. I was like, okay, sure. So like I had the general sense that some shit was going down, but my parents were just like totally oblivious to it. And when it started to get like a little bit rowdy, me and my mom were like at the top of the stairs, like the door, we opened the door to go downstairs. My brother came up the stairs and he was like, everything's fine, nothing's wrong. And I happened to hear somebody say the word, "Hey, can you get me another beer?" And so I said to my mom and dad, I said, "One of them just said the term beer." And my brother was like, "We can't talk about beer. What are you talking? There's no beer down here. Like, we're not allowed to talk about it." And I was like, "They said beer and I'm under 21. I'm scared." And so, of course, my father went down into the basement, and we had a finished part of the basement and an unfinished part of the basement, and it was separated with a door. And so there was nothing going on in the finished part of the basement, and then in the unfinished part, they found just like a mess of like Natty Light and lots of like some weird booze that they were playing like Edward 40 Hands with or something like that. I'm not fully sure. So it turns out that my brother had like snuck in, had convinced all these people to sneak in everything through like this basement door, and he somehow thought that he was going to be able to get away with, like cleaning an entire like 1,500 square feet on his own with all these beer cans. But the funny part about all of this is the response that my parents had to this, which was not to like collect the drinks and like send people home or whatever. The response was he did all of that, but then my parents also made my brother write a 10-page paper on drinking and driving. And he had to call every parent of every child at the party and like apologize for like introducing their child to alcohol, which none of these kids were like introduced to alcohol that like they all knew about it. And to be honest with you, I was also drinking at that age, but I was being a smart person and not doing it, in the living room that I was raised in. So the theme of this story was a time that I was like my mother. It was just a time it was very like my mother. Also learned that night that like you don't want to piss off Dick and Laura. Like you don't want to piss them off because you don't want to write a research paper on top of a research paper. And this goes full circle because I was devastated shortly after this party. I was devastated to find out that my one true love, my fake boyfriend, Bryce, broke up with me because I ratted on the party. And I was so devastated. It was like maybe the hardest breakup I've had to date. Anyway, that's my story. Back to you, Kendra.
Thank you, Kathleen, for telling the story of how you were a huge teenage narc.
Do this already.
Narked on your own brother.
You narked on your brother. Yeah, this is why you go drinking with your friends. You go drinking in basements with your friends who either are only children or their siblings have already gone away to college. That's what you got to do. I drank in many basements, but no one narked us out. Because I think my friend's mom was a really heavy sleeper as well. But yeah. Thank you for that riveting tale of years of being a narc. We do not condone being a narc on this show, just so you know. If you see something, don't say shit. Snitches get stitches, etc., etc. But we appreciate your story, Kathleen. Coming up next, very excited to bring up this performer. We have Kat Goding.
Hey everybody. So I didn't spend a lot of time growing up drinking in basements, but definitely drank in a lot of fields.
Hell yeah.
A lot of fields. A lot of fields. I'm from the kind of place where like the coolest thing you could do on a weeknight would to just get stuck in a ditch somewhere, I guess. I don't know. And we would just like smoke salvia till like AAA came. So I had to move to Boston, obviously. There's nothing to do. So I wanted to tell a tale about escapism and different variations of that and what that means to me. But it's mostly a story about the first time I took acid. And escapism, you know? Okay, so like I'm from a place where like people kind of just like root themselves there like trees, because like their families have like been there for generations and generations, and not for me, not to stick around, not my scene. So I mean, there's like a good year gap between like high school and like my next big adventure. And I was kind of like stuck in a stasis, and I was working this job at a Thai restaurant. And we're just going to call it Thai Frown. Thai Frown Works. And it was my first job, and it was like I was waiting tables. And so it was just like kind of difficult. And I was also like an 18-year-old shithead, right? Like, I just really only cared about like, spending time in fields, like a lot of time in fields. And so there's one day where like I had worked like 2 weeks straight or something like that. And I tried like calling out for a shift. Yes, Kendra, by the way. So I tried like calling out for a shift, and the owner, he was a real lush, right? Like most of the time, you would find him just kind of like face down on the bar. It was like the kind of place where it took me a little bit to like eat like pad thai again after working there, because like pad thai just tastes like abuse to me for like a good chunk. Like I had a coworker, she got like punched by like someone working in the kitchen like during a shift. It was like a crazy time, like weird first gig. So anyway, I'm like calling out because I want to go hang out in a field. And so my boss is just like, oh, like you're calling out today, like I'm gonna fire you. And I was just like, you're not gonna fire me, I quit. Ha ha ha. And then I hung up the phone, and I went and hung out with some like old friends, and we decided we were gonna take acid in a field because that's what you do. So we're there, and I'm just like, at this point in my life, I'm like really tired of just like sitting around and like drinking in fields. Yeah, I was like ready for the next big adventure. And for me, that meant like formulating this idea that I was gonna like move 2 hours away. That was gonna be my big adventure. I just keep moving away from my hometown in 2 hour increments, like that's just way my life is progressing. So anyway, we're like hanging out in this field, and it was like a childhood best friend and his girlfriend, and we were eating like a chicken pot pie and like fruit salad. It was like in the summertime too, like the most like beautiful like July day you could ever think of. Probably a day like today, but it was much better because we were on acid. So we were just like hanging out, and we decided that we were going to move to a city in Maine, which would be Portland, and we were going to spend some time writing this TV show. We had this idea, we're going to make this sketch show. I was all about it. I just wanted to like get out of town. So flash forward to like the fall, we like move there, and it's an interesting time. I am like struggling with being away from home, 2 hour increments, like a little bit at a time. So anyway, I guess this is more just like a progression of stuff. I guess. I don't know. I'm so bad at telling stories.
You're doing great.
You are.
You're all good.
Anyway,
it's all good.
All right, we're in Portland, Maine, right? And like Portland, Maine's like fun. It's cool. There's like an art school. Everyone thinks I'm an art student, and like I'm not. I'm just poor and angsty about it. So like constantly get mistaken for like being an art student, and so it's getting like pretty lonely, right? And so like I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna like install Tinder. That was the first time I'd ever installed Tinder because like it does not exist in my hometown. I tried at one point, and it was like there's no one new around you, and I was like surprised, like no, like we all knew that. Dating pool puddle. Anyway, so we're in Portland, and I'm like swiping on the apps. I'm just like, cool, this is fun. And then so I get to chatting with this guy, and he was just like, hey, like I do stand-up comedy. Do you like want to come to a show sometime? And I was just like, yeah, cool. Like I have nothing else going on. Like clearly we're not like writing the show. So I go, and like he is like the worst. Like he is just like the worst. And also it's an open mic. Like he invited me to an open mic and said it was going to be a show. So and like he was just so awful. Like he was so bad. And I remember thinking to myself, I was just like, I could do this. And so like literally the next week, I formed like I got a set all together. And I like started going, and then I got some laughs. I mean, obviously like I bombed really hard, but you know people were like giggling. They were just like, I guess when I first started like trying to like tell jokes, like the room would be quiet, and it was also like this public access TV station as well. So like I don't know why like public access stations, they always have like mannequin parts on stage, but like it was like one of those places. It was like right next to like an art school. Uh and so I just like kept coming back, and I remember that guy was like, "You got more laughs than I did." And then I was just like, "Oh yeah, probably because you're terrible." I don't know. And so I kept doing it. He ghosted me. I found out like a year later he started cooking crack. Uh, so I don't know if like you know my yeah, I don't know. You just started cooking crack. All right, that's all I know. Those are the facts. I'm not responsible. All right, I did not do the crack. Just the acid. A lot of it. Too much acid. I have ruined so many first dates because of psychedelics. Like like so many. There's this one time I it was like the liquid kind, and just got like too many drops on my tongue, and I was like peeking in a Chipotle, and I had to go. It was like so bad. It was so bad. He was like so nice. He was like an art student, right? So he just like brought me back to my apartment, and I remember I sat there and I was like, I'm gonna draw something, and I like couldn't move like my pencil, and I was just like, you know what? Too much acid. I did go on like a quarantine date, I guess. Like it was like months ago. So I like broke up with my long-term boyfriend right at the start of quarantine, and we like lived together. It was it was a rough month when we were like still like quarantined together and broken up. Probably the most awkward part about that situation is having to listen to each other go on Zoom dates, like other opposite ends of the apartment. Definitely was strange. So anyway, I have this like date all lined up, and like he had like bailed on me before, so I was just kind of like, okay, like he might show up, he might not. He was just like, I'll be there at like 5, let's say 5. And it was like 5:20, 5:25, and I was just like, nah, he's not showing up. I'm just gonna eat mushrooms. And he was just very late. So he showed up, and I was on mushrooms. He had never done psychedelics before, so I feel like I spent the whole time just convincing him I wasn't like looking at gnomes. I was just like, I don't know. It made it interesting. He was just like, "You're tapped," and I'm just like, "Yeah, whatever." Like I fractured my elbow last week. That was another thing. Okay, so like I've gotten super into skateboarding. I am jobless. All I do is like wake up and skateboard and maybe smoke weed because I'm California sober. Yeah, so I'm actually drinking a non-alcoholic beer right now. This is like really tasty. It's called like Upside Dawn, I believe.
Yes.
And it's nice. It's really hard finding like non-alcoholic beer around here in Boston. I find like liquor stores just always give me like this weird look whenever I'm just like, I would like a non-alcoholic beer. And I would rather hear them say like, we don't have any than say, you know, we can get you an O'Doul's. Cause like, just like the sound of like O'Doul's is just like, I don't know. There's something about drinking O'Doul's that just makes me feel like an alcoholic. Like, I don't know. Escapism, am I right? Okay, yeah. I think I'm done. I'm just gonna go get lost in the woods now for fun.
All right,
Thank
let's keep
you.
it going for Kat. Thank you, Kat. Wow, just so much. Yeah, it seems like dating is already bad, but it seems like it would be even worse on drugs. Like I don't know, especially a Zoom date. I feel like I'd rather just, I don't know, stare at a painting for a while. Like that's I feel like that would be my vibe. But I definitely understand the doing drugs in the field as someone who grew up kind of close to fields. We had like there's like basement suburbs and field suburbs. I was kind of in the middle, right? But yeah, and another similarity between me and Kat, I also got out of a long-term relationship shortly before quarantine started, and there was a little bit where we were living together. Also had a horny cat, so it was just a really awkward situation on the whole, unfortunately. But yeah, feel your pain, Zoom dates, mushrooms. I get it. I get all of it. So coming up next, we have this really awesome comedian, the one guy on the show. So he's going to be representing all men right now. It's going to be great. Please keep it going for Sean Rosa.
Hey, thanks everybody. Yeah, representing all men. I will surely let them all down. Kendra, I wanted to say there is a detail that was like really kind of overlooked in your story about like when they come up and the other boat, they confront you like, oh yeah, people have been stealing boats lately, like. You're on a lake. Like that's a landlocked body of water. Like what's the worst they could do? There's no crime there. It's like what, like, oh, somebody stole my boat and parked it in the corner. Like,
yeah, you're right.
Yeah. What I'm saying is rich people don't have problems.
So right.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a storytelling show. I'm not super great at stories, so I'm gonna tell some things. I'm gonna say some things about my time in quarantine and my struggles with depression, aka the never-ending story. Yeah, my quarantine has been very up and down. At the start of it, I got really sick. Like I still don't know if I actually had the virus, but I got very sick, and a lot of the symptoms I was feeling were a lot of the stuff that at the time were the symptoms that were being presented as symptoms of the virus. And it's scary, the virus. Like I remember, this is outdated now, but I like the joke that I wrote about it, so go with me. I remember reading an article that was like the number of Americans that have died because of coronavirus is now greater than the number of Americans who died in the Vietnam War, which is a staggering fact. And it's insane to think that the thing that coronavirus and the Vietnam War have in common is that they're very good at killing people who were in the Vietnam War. Yeah, it's quite dark. A lot of hushed, covered the mouth laughter from the comics in the room. Yeah, so this my quarantine started off bad. Before everything started shutting down, like I'm an essential employee, and yeah, I work doing like manual labor. I've worked doing manual labor pretty much my entire 20s. You can't tell it now, but like I usually tend to dress like a semi trust fund kid, because I want to hide the fact that I paid my way through college unloading trailers. Like I want to do the opposite of what everybody else does, which is like, oh, I'm gonna pretend to be poor so that nobody knows that my parents pay for my apartment. It's like, no, I want everybody to think that I would never say, do you know who my father is? But I want people to think that I might. I got really sick, and so like the Friday, like the first Friday, I called out of work like, hey, I'm really sick, it could be the virus, I don't know. And they were like, okay, take today off, take the weekend off, and let's see how you feel come Monday. I'm feeling better, but I'm just like hearing about like the gestation period and like all of this stuff. So I call my work before I'm supposed to go in, and I'm like, hey, I'm feeling better, but I'm still like, should I stay home, to just help mitigate the spread? And they were like, I mean, we could really use you in. It's like, that's not the question. Like, do you want me to stay home to curb the spread of an infectious disease? And their response was, it sounds like the only disease you've contracted is the Mondays. It was like really stressful that like first week walking around. Like, I missed like 3 weeks of work because of it at the start of that. And when I finally got back, like everybody had to have known why I was out of work for so long. So it was so stressful just walking around as a person, like having everybody know that about you. It felt like all of my irrational fears due to social anxiety all came true at once. It was just like, oh my God, everybody hates me and they wish I weren't here and they're right. Like that's what it felt like. And it's gotten better-ish. I think I'm working on myself. I've started exercising and working out. I have some exercise equipment in a shed in my backyard, which is weird, but it's definitely not the weirdest thing I could be doing in a shed in my backyard. It's like, my neighbors aren't concerned because all the screams are mine, it's fine. But it's interesting because like I've resisted physical exercise for so long because as somebody who suffers from major depression, I really hated like this social media phenomenon of people like kind of denying or downplaying depression, and like these Instagram influencers who would be like, oh, you're depressed? Well, instead of taking drugs or going to therapy, have you ever tried having abs? Like that I was disgusted by that. So I resisted physical exercise because I would rather have major depression than prove them right. But like now I'm starting to I'm exercising more frequently, and I hate to say it, but I'm feeling a little better. Yeah, but like my brain works that like now that like I'm not ready for high self-esteem. I'm not like my brain is this constant game of self-esteem whack-a-mole, where anytime I start feeling good about myself for any little thing, my brain just takes a mallet and smashes it back down and dares anything else to try and pop its head up. Oh, you're feeling good about exercising? Bang. Anybody else want to try something? Joy over reciprocated feelings of affection. I see you peeking your head out there. But I was walking around at my job the other day, and like I had worked out the day before, so I was like walking with a little pep in my step because I was feeling good. And I was like, I just like stopped for a moment, and I just thought, wow, feeling good feels good. And like my body like shut down and it went into like this like maintenance mode, where it was just like, what did you just say to yourself? We have to analyze every part of this sentence immediately. My brain, the inside of my brain just became a bunch of teenagers on the bus just roasting me. Like it was just like, oh, feeling good feels good, huh? Did you come up with that one yourself there, Descartes? Like that was, and it there's no rest. Like another thing that's really helped me is reaching out to friends. I've realized that without stand-up comedy, I have to put a lot more work into my friendships, because it's like, you can't just go somewhere 5 nights a week and expect that like a bunch of people that are just going to be there. You have to like actually put the effort in and you realize like, oh, how many friends do I have? But like the thing is, like, I try to be supportive and empathetic to my friends, and that's always been important to me, especially now. And the thing is with me, whenever I start supporting a friend, I go all in on supporting them. Like no matter what, like my friend a few months ago put on her Instagram story that she was starting to learn tarot card reading, and I was just like, I was like, she asked if people wanted to, have their fortunes read, and I don't believe in any of that stuff, but as a stand-up comedian, I don't know that I can necessarily poo-poo somebody for trying to get their friends to follow their delusions. So I was like, sure, I'll have my fortune read, and that was a couple months ago. She never got back to me, so I think that's my fortune. Is just that there's nothing we can say to you right now. Good luck, I guess. That's what it is. There is no card for what is ahead for you. Good to know you, and then nothing from there. But yeah, I guess that's it for me. I wish that was an actual story with a beginning, middle, and end, the way stories go, but that's not how life works. Sorry, everybody, but thank you.
Thank you so much, Sean. Screw actual stories. Time is fake. Narratives are fake. We are the masters of our own futures. If I want to create a narrative that literally goes in the circle, I'm gonna fucking do it. I'm gonna do whatever I want. How about this? Here's a story. The world ends. Man was created. Boom. Amazing. That's not a good story. That was 2 sentences. But thank you so much, Sean. So I'm gonna bring up our last guest of the night, our last comedian. She is hilarious. She once played a vampire in a movie. Please give it up for Chloe Cunha.
Woo! Hello. Hey. Yeah, it's true. And you know what? My tits were out. So there is a theme. There is a theme to
Theme's
this
titties.
whole
The theme
show.
is
Yeah, the theme is tits. Who'd have thunk? But yeah, no, it's true. My story is not about that. So if anybody really wants to hear about my vampire tit story, I'm so sorry. But so I learned earlier this week that my twin brother, my older brother, and my girlfriend all have separate Dungeons and Dragons groups. But it's a bummer. I'm like, damn it, why do I have a Dungeons and Dragons group? And that this revelation of everybody, a lot of important people in my life, playing fantasy time without me, reminded me of a childhood teenage really memory related to Dungeons and Dragons, because I have at one point played it. And so here's what happened basically. So as I mentioned, I have 2 brothers. I have a twin brother, older than me technically by 2 minutes, although the legend goes he pushed me out of the way. I was supposed to be first anyway. Don't feel bitter about it at all. I feel fine. And then the older brother is 3 years older, so we're similar in age, right? And at some point, I think I don't remember what age exactly I was. I was maybe 14, which means my older brother must have been 17. He was in high school, and either I was like a freshman or I was in middle school, so kind of youngish, but we're all teenagers, right? And he and my twin brothers started playing Dungeons and Dragons with some friends. And at first, I was allowed in on the fun, and I didn't really know what I was doing, but I had a fun time. I had, a paladin. I don't know. He had a big sword. It was cool. I got to destroy things with my mighty muscles, which is not an experience I get to have in real life. I'm very small. But you know what? I look big on screen, so that's exciting. But but no, it was fun. I enjoyed it a lot. And then at some point, all of a sudden, it was like, oh, Chloe, I'm sorry. Like, we don't really want you to play anymore. And I was like, okay, well, that's sad. I'm pretty sure I helped you guys defeat that fucking orc horde, but fine, whatever. I guess you don't need Raymond Lightbringer. But uh, but I wasn't allowed to play anymore. I didn't find out until years later, until like I was an adult, that the reason was I was a girl, and that was like somehow putting a cramp in their style. I guess my brothers felt fine with it, but their friends were kind of like, little guys, I don't know, they were little misogynist little shitheads, even though I love them. We're still friends, whatever, but you guys were stupid when you were younger, just pointing that out there. But, I don't know, I guess maybe like, speaking of titties, I guess it was harder to like fantasize about elven titties with your friend's sister in the room. I don't know. Are they pointy like the ears? Anyway, just saying, that's canon now. But but yeah, it was a bummer. It really bummed me out. I really wanted to play, but I'm lucky enough that I have like a nice, big dining room table, where everybody could gather. So even though they would swap, where to play, a lot of times they played at my house, because it was just kind of the easiest location, and there was a nice, we had a nice spot for it, basically. So it's one of these nights, my brothers and their friends were all playing. I'm kind of like, doing something else, I don't know, sad, alone in my corner. And at one point I need to go to the bathroom, so I go to the bathroom. I'm doing my thing alone in the bathroom. That's just normal, but and I go to leave the bathroom, and I remember something that I had been remembering well until this point, which is that we needed to repair the door handle to the bathroom, meaning the handle going in was on correctly and functioning normally, but on the other side, to exit the bathroom, there was no handle. Yeah. And previously, I had been remembering this fact, and we were all kind of remembering and kind of like, okay, just close the door kind of lightly so it's not really, really closed, and then you'll be able to leave. Right? We'd all been coping, but I guess maybe I was just thinking about Raymond Lightbringer and so sad that he couldn't, go on adventures, that I was sad or something. I don't know. Maybe I just really needed to pee. I don't know what was going through my mind, but I thoroughly closed the door without thinking. And I could not leave. So all of a sudden I was trapped in the bathroom. At least there was toilet paper, and I was done with my business. How much worse could this story have been if I had peed and there was no toilet paper? So there was a silver lining to this horrible adventure, but I'm trapped in the bathroom, in my own damn house. And I'm not wearing shoes because, again, I'm in my own damn house. I don't need to wear shoes in my house. So I'm like, I need to think of an exit strategy. I'm yelling my little 14, 15-year-old head off, but my brothers are like trapezing through the Golden Mountains or whatever the fuck. They can't hear me. They're like defeating dragons, like, haha, lo, fi, the horse. I don't know how to remember. It's been a while since I played. And they're just like having their time drinking Mountain Dew or whatever, and they're not, either they don't hear me or I'm just not shouting loud enough. But after a certain point, I'm like, how much time am I gonna waste just shouting, help, I'm trapped in the bathroom, it's comical but upsetting. And so finally I'm like, okay, I kind of try to take matters into my own hands. The handle was a non-starter. It could not, I tried, the door was unbudgeable, right? So I'm like, all right, what other means of escape are there? And I looked around, there's a window. Remember, we're in a bathroom. Bathroom windows, historically, not very large. This was the same case with this window. So I'm like, okay, all right, here we go. Like I said earlier, I am small. I've always been kind of on the more compact side. Luckily, it came in handy because I had to shove the windowsill up, which by the way, some windows that are just not used to being opened all the way, right? It's just, that's not how, maybe in the Victorian era it was the thing, but I really had to use what little tiny string bean muscle I had to push it as up as possible. Did not succeed very far, and basically had to like shimmy and crawl my way out completely footless, shoeless. I was topless. No, I took them not out. Although that would have been a fun twist. No, completely shoeless. I had to shimmy out of the fucking bathroom, plop onto the outside of my house onto like basically I don't know, like earthenness and like maybe a bush. I found a way. I scurried around the side, back, and entered my house again. My brothers and their friends are like, where did you, what? Because they didn't see me leave. They thought I was just pooping somewhere. And I enter, and listen, I was my own hero in that moment, is the moral of the story. And frankly, they should have had me in their D&D party, because clearly I was also really good at sneaking. I'm just saying, I had a real adventure while they were playing pretend, and basically I'm a badass. So the story.
Nice.
Amazing end to the story. Thank you, Chloe.
Thank you. Yeah, it was harrowing. Experience.
Yeah, no, I would hate to be stuck in a bathroom. Yeah, especially because like I've been in like the bathroom I have now does not have a window. So I would just be fucking stuck in there if no one heard my screams.
Oh, no.
Very scary. Thank you for sharing that story, Chloe. That is our night, everyone. Those are all the stories. I hope you have enjoyed viewing this content. Please follow all the comics on social media. Please give tips to the Comedy Studio, all of that. Thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope you have a great rest of your night.
Hey.
Ooh, pizza's here.